Hi, everyone, and welcome to the special edition of Unique Piece. I'm excited to have Amy Anthony on and hear her story. She's a certified aromatherapist who started off as a marketing researcher, and I want to share her story of how she came from market research to aromatherapy and found a little peace in doing that. So join me in welcoming Amy Anthony. How are you, Amy?
I am doing really well despite the wildfires that have made it really smoky here in New York City from up in Canada. It's terrible. Hence why my glasses are on.
Ah, no, I grew up in Colorado and we recently visited, and I was so excited to take my boyfriend and my son up to Pikes Peak because from Pikes Peak you can see downtown Denver. Not when
Mm,
there's fires in California. You can't do
yeah.
it.
Oh,
So, yeah.
oh.
And yeah,
Anyway.
we've had a lot of those air quality Alexa notifications.
Yeah, it's been rough. But I digress. But it's been a weird day. Anyway, thanks for having me here.
So, tell us a little bit about how you went from market research to aromatherapy.
It's always a fun question to answer because I think I did what a lot of people did in our generations, where you go to college, you get the job, you work to, you make the money and all that. But I was a plant person my whole life. I loved being in plants. I grew up in the Hudson Valley of New York, and I always needed to be by nature. I was the kid in high school that planned an herb garden. Let's just put it that way. That's how I spent my time. I started to learn Latin binomials of plants when I was in high school. And long story short, I went to college, got my degree, started working when I was in college, and I ended up in market research. I loved it. It's yeah, it's a job, right? And I love analytics. I love marrying the right and left brain together, and that's what aromatherapy helps us do, actually. But I did this thing for a while. It was fulfilling to a sense. I ended up at a big global bank and I just couldn't take it anymore. I'd show up to that building in downtown Manhattan and be like, why am I here? I'd look at that building and I quit. I have a spouse, very generous person. And yeah, right. You just quit your job, right? And I thought I was going to be a professional organizer. Like that's how desperate I was to get out and just do something else. I always kept my foot in to like going to gardens, trying to be by plants. And the essential oils found me when I was still working, but I started to really discover them and be curious and read about them in 2012.
Nice.
And by that time, my first workshop was in 2012. Around the time I quit my job, and then I was obsessed, and I didn't know why. I wanted to know more about these, how they work, what do they do. And I was buying books, and then I became obsessed about becoming certified in aromatherapy. And luckily, a person, her name is Amy Galper. At the time, she opened a school here, the only aromatherapy school in New York City and the East Coast for live certification, I believe. That no longer exists, unfortunately. But I became certified, and then I was asked to teach at the school, and it just snowballed. But when I found the oils, they found me, actually. I didn't find them. And looking back, this is to share with everybody. Essential oils are a way to connect with nature when we're in a place like New York City, when you're in an office building, et cetera, et cetera. So it is a real connector on so many levels. But I want to stop talking and pause.
Oh, don't apologize. Love for you to continue talking. I want to welcome Michael. He is viewing tonight. He says welcome. He is my biggest cheerleader. Um, so as a Reiki master, I incorporate oils. Um, but I'm always aware of people's sensitivities. So
Mhm.
it's like if I'm going to use oils, I use it at the end of the day versus at the start of the day, because
Mhm.
as people come in, we know they can build one upon the other.
Yeah.
But I find them to be very soothing and relaxing, or very energizing and calming at the same time. They do a lot of different things. So how do you incorporate that into everyday life in a sense of this is, a podcast about peace, and I know that scents can take you back, it can bring you forward, they can bring you present. So talk about that.
It's a it's a really nuanced way to look at things because I'm a proponent of not having essential oils in your everyday life every day. Like I don't see them as products and consumption. And I'm saying that to be really like distance myself from, just making products, putting them on a shelf. Uh, and one way I incorporate them every day, because I do make custom products for individual one-on-one clients, it's drinking a tea, it's being outside, it's working with my sense of smell to try to be as present as possible. I do make my own face creams and face oils, and I've made my own toothpaste. I make my own deodorant, and those are in my life. But I have to be really honest, I'm not as mindful when I'm just putting a product on. So when I really want to connect with an oil and center myself, like just recently, I started to work with cypress essential oil because I'm doing some work with myself about, transitioning into my femininity as I get older. And I carry the bottle around with me and I will smell it, but be really aware when I'm smelling it to really get the messages of cypress and those molecules in. So again, I'm not bashing product making, but it's really about that. As a practitioner, try to be really mindful and
Absolutely.
pause and really get in there with the oil.
Right. No,
But
I totally understand. It's like I don't use them every day either, but it's like if I want to feel energized, I will
mhm,
open, and I just have it on my desk, open a citrus blend or open a
yeah,
lemon blend, just because it is uplifting.
yeah.
And like if I want to calm down, I love the lavender, but I also like spruce. Calms
Uh,
me down. So, and everybody's nose is different.
yeah.
Everybody's nose is different. So, how you react to one oil, I might be repelled by another. I
Oh,
might be
definitely.
the same oil might be like, nope, not for me.
Mhm.
Um, so, and I do really feel that they can bring us peace in a lot of ways. So, how does working with the oils bring you peace?
There's like such a multi-layered cake to that. And you already touched upon it by when we smell an oil, we are working with, there's always like and dislike. Maybe you have a
Mhm.
memory of like, oh, I just don't like the smell of citrus, let's say. Like, I hate oranges. Ugh, hate it. We also have within that memory, so that's important, it's personal. You could have memories like, oh, you smell an orange and you're taken back to grandma's place in Florida where you had orange juice when you visited with her. There's that memory and you can start to form memories and make associations even as we get older. And then there's cultural aspects to that. So even smelling something that's soothing to you within your culture, like that smells good. Like I grew up Catholic. When I walk by a Catholic church, it's like, oh, there's that smell, more of memory. But there starts to be this bridge between just the recall, which is very powerful. We could work with people with dementia to make them feel comforted by an aroma that comforts and calms them. But there's this bridge of emotions that works with even into neurotransmitters. And when we're smelling these essential oils, they're made up of several, if not even, let's dare say, 100 components, different little components of chemistry in there. And they work with the emotions and the olfactory bulb and getting in there, but also when we're smelling something, it's entering our bloodstream. We have even smelling oils with the blood vessels in our nasal passages. We could start to work with receptor sites. There's receptor sites for aromatics on our skin.
Yep.
So this is a real, I think a lot of folks think of essential oils as la-di-da smell. But it's like, no, there's more and more research we're getting that essential oils and their components work affirmatively on the neurotransmitter level and with receptor sites. So
They vibrate.
lavender does make you sleepy. Yeah, and there is a vibration, and literally they can dock on receptor sites on your cells and work that way.
I didn't
So
know. I just recently learned just this past year that they vibrate. Like there's a certain vibrate. Oh, they each have their own vibration. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
yeah. Yeah, and to that point, it's multi-level. You can work on the vibrational, what could I'm not going to say esoteric level, but the vibrational level, and even in the more hard sciencey way of, and thanks to terpenes and cannabis, which is an aromatic, it's also it's psychotropic, but there's more research that's justifying, in quotes, the properties of essential oils and their terpenes. That make up the essential oils. It's crazy.
It is. But it's good. And I mean, and again, like your point, you can't use it, not necessarily use it every day all the time, but when necessary, it is, sometimes you just need that. And the memory. My
Mhm.
grandparents had a lilac bush in their in their yard,
Yeah.
and I get hit with lilac. It's just that it does take you back. That's one of the going back to memory. And I also have an affinity for jasmine and
Oh,
June. So, and it's like those are the scents that take me back.
yeah.
So, what are some of the scents that take you back?
It's a really tough question because I have a very powerful one I want to share, but believe it or not, as an aromatherapist, I'm not very scent memory based. I've trained myself to be as neutral as possible when I'm encountering scents, because what I do when I write about oils and try to get to know them is I smell them and I take notes about where is it hitting, scent profile, all that stuff, but I try to really psychosomatic get into what's happening with my digestive system. Did something move? And really, where is it hitting me in my body? But to be honest with you, I was a smoker of cigarettes. I started in high school, like one of those bad teenagers. I quit in my 20s. But when I smell tobacco and it smells a certain way, like Marlboro Reds, and it's a certain, like spot on, I'm taken back to being, I'd say it was 13 years old. My friend Melanie at the time in Poughkeepsie, New York. I could see it in my head. It's just tobacco.
Yes.
But it's really funny, like, to answer your question, like I'm by this stuff all day. I'm just blending oils here for a sacred a workshop tomorrow, and I'll share what they are if you want. But I'm really neutral about scent, and I try to be, which is funny for an aromatherapist, I think.
But you're also an educator. So
Exactly.
taking that step back and being an objective educator, it's like, okay, you might experience this, or this has a tendency to do X, Y, Z. You wouldn't do that if you were emotionally connected. So I can understand your neutrality.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that. Yeah. It's um, it is important. That's one thing too with, and you work with the oils, when we're presenting them to somebody, I try really hard not to do auto suggestion or to be like, lavender is good for sleep. And then that person might be like, oh, sleep, and make that association. Or then they think something's wrong with them if they don't feel relaxed. Yeah, so we trying to stay neutral and presenting to somebody and coaching them on how to smell an oil
Right.
is a real thing, to try to take this sensory chemical information in and see what happens. And I want to share one thing you touched upon, and I want to expound upon it. When we smell an oil and we have a memory and it's happy, that's great, and it changes your neurochemistry. So you could just stop there, and not even get into the physiological. Like, I was seeing research that Roman chamomile works on oxytocin receptors. Like, we don't even have to go there. We could just say, you like this? It makes you feel X? Great.
Awesome. That's yours. You want that.
Run with it. Yeah. Have fun. Yeah. But
So, other than oils, which are very powerful, what brings you peace, Amy?
oh, My screen just went weird. What brings me peace? I love that. A perfect example is today. I gave myself permission. I put it in my calendar to go visit the cloisters, part of the Met Museum, the cloisters up in the northwest Manhattan Island, and to take the garden tour. So I've been to the cloisters before, but to never spend more time with the plants, and that is what gives me peace, is being by plants. And that's why I became an aromatherapist. I am the conduit to help people connect with this type of medicine. And I I'm quite introverted, believe it or not, but the plants help me speak and share with others. So I shared with you earlier, I have a place out on Long Island with my spouse, and I try to be there every weekend, even in the winter. I go hiking. I do plant ID. I have gardens, modest ones, and that is where I need to be. I would be lost if I couldn't have access to nature. It's a
Nature is very powerful, and it can be very peaceful. It
Yeah,
can be very peaceful. Again, I as noted, I grew up in Colorado, so there was always
yeah,
mountains. My parents were from the Great Lakes regions, Minnesota, land of
yeah,
10,000 lakes. Go drive 5 minutes, you'll find one. Um,
yeah.
it's just really what it is. It's like, okay. Um, yeah, and then out here, as a New York transplant, I have grown accustomed to the beach. I'm not necessarily fond of the water, but I like to be near the water. Let's face it, the ocean is a formidable force.
It is. I want to share my dog who's 13. She's doing great. She was getting radiation treatments out on West Islip, and during treatments, I would go to Robert Moses State Park. This was in January of this year, and I would just reflect upon life. My dog's gonna end of life. We all are gonna die, right? And it's just a nice reminder of how big the world is and how we're such a small part of it. And I want to use that segue into reminding folks, if you never thought about it, essential oils are ways to help us with transitions. So, like with Reiki, if you work, it's a transition from point A to point B, and they can help. But and
Yes.
nature's part of that. The oils are part of that. It's all really powerful.
So, what are some of the ways that you bring peace to others?
Well, if you have a session with me, I'm hoping that I bring you peace because I make a blend where you're involved in me making the blend with you. But how do you bring peace to others? I'm pausing because there's two things that come to mind. I mentioned I'm introverted, and I've realized how to work with that over the years. And I am a listener, so I will be there to listen. I try not to give advice unless I'm asked for it. And I find making and sharing is something I like to bring peace. I volunteer a lot over the years. In one place I've been at over 10 years. Every Thursday I volunteer at a common table, we call it. We don't call it a soup kitchen. And I've been making for years the aromatic soup. And
Hmm.
that, like, I'm always trying to put fresh herbs, interesting spices, saffron in there. How many folks drink saffron,
How many people
and
know what saffron is, but it's so good for you?
yeah, great. Proven to work with anxiety and mood, right? It's so bringing people calm. I think by me sharing the plants with people and trying to be a good listener is how I can try to bring peace. I'm not perfect, but I try.
None of us are perfect. All bring peace to others in a unique way. So what you're doing is very commendable.
Thank
And
you.
thank you.
But
Thank
it
you. And
is the aromatics, like I've been making on and off. I'll make herbal teas to share with guests at St. George's. And last week I made a cold infusion. Always remember cold infusions for aromatics of lavender from Lavender by the Bay on Long Island, chamomile from my garden. And what's the other one I did? and it was a cold infusion, and like seeing people's reaction to that is just great.
Now, for those of us who have heard of but are not familiar with cold infusion, enlighten us.
Yes. So cold brew coffee. It's
Oh,
basically the same thing. Yeah. So, and I've been saying that I've learned to say cold brew now, but infusion, you make a tea, you put herb and water. It's either cold or hot water, right? So
mm,
cold brew coffee tastes smoother because the heat, when you put hot on your coffee, it pulls out the bitter qualities. So if you make chamomile tea and you put boiling hot water on it, it's not going to taste great. But because the bitter quality comes out, which is good, it's good for digestion. But when you make a cold infusion, that's what my tea was last week: rose petal,
mm.
chamomile, and lavender. And when you do cold, you get this subtle, perfumed gorgeousness that enhances your mood, but you don't get the bitter. It's a good secret to take away.
I will say that chamomile is one of the few teas that I can drink cold. For me, I drink tea to warm up or coffee to warm
Mm,
up, so it seems counterintuitive to drink them cold. But like iced tea, obviously you drink cold, and I've
mm,
I've made it like sun. We call it sun tea, so you
hmm.
just water and the sun does what it's supposed to. But when it comes to chamomile, like if I start off hot and it gets cold, I can drink it cold. Where
Mm.
otherwise I'm like, I need to pour more hot water.
So, if you could try this and humor me, if you do overnight, even on your countertop or in the fridge, you just do a cold infusion overnight. Just put the herb in, like a teaspoon of chamomile to a cup of water, cover it in a mason jar,
Yes.
and then you could drink it as a cooling beverage. And you could
Okay.
try it and see if you like it. Frankincense water, people make that in the Arabic countries for health, like gut health, preventative. I can't make medical claims, but it's the boswellic acids are shown to be anti-cancer. The acids come out in the water. You drink a cold infusion, like overnight cold infusion, and drink it in the morning upon waking. And it's subtle, cooling, and soothing. It's so delicious.
All of those sound nice on a summer day.
They do. Yeah, I would never have the cold infusions. I don't in the winter. I start to gravitate towards them in May into June.
And then
Yeah.
they take you through until when?
October.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you are bringing to others and you're going through that process, what are some of the things that you notice help people the most?
I'm trying to think. That's a really interesting and tough question. Could you repeat that? When I bring peace to others, or I'm trying to bring peace to others?
And it's bringing them peace. What do you notice the most? What do you find that they
Mm.
come to you and it's soothing? Because I also am an introvert and I tend to be a people magnet. It might be because I listen, but that's how I bring them peace,
Yeah.
is I'm listening and I'm acknowledging. I, on the other hand, um, do give advice.
No, I
Mhm.
try not to, but we do. But now I'm trying to think of interactions with people when I have my aromatherapy hat on, because I don't always want to have that hat on. But it's the peace that comes over people when I'm with someone with the aromatics, you see them like embody and kind of sit and relax. They might breathe a little better, and it's just like this subtle difference of, oh, okay, yeah, that's it. It's that, like, that little pause and that gap of like, oh, okay, I didn't realize I was so uptight, strung out, that I had tension in my shoulders. Um, but you're really making me think about myself because I am like, actually, not to make this show about me right now, this episode, but it's like there's the
Okay.
aromatherapy Amy professional, and then there's the one that's just like, I want to be alone and be in the garden. So it's like that, the the two worlds, that are kind of separate but connected.
They are
But
connected. That makes you that's what makes you whole.
yes.
That's what makes you whole. You have to, we all have the side of us that is go, 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 and whatever go, go, go looks like. But then there's the side of this is what I do to relax. It's
Yes.
like we all have our guilty pleasures. At some point in time, it's like, okay, I've gone, 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 gone. I'm gonna watch Days of Our Lives. I'm gonna binge Days of Our Lives, and you're just gonna let me be. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
it's like,
Yeah.
I know it's not real. Leave me alone type of moment.
Yeah, no, it is good. Um, I just want to share something that I've done. I always have oils with me, and I'm just thinking about interacting with people. And my husband just thinks, he's like, "Oh, there she goes again." I'll be out, and I'll be like, "I'll have this with me tonight." I'm gonna go have a snack when we're done with our conversation, and I'll be like, "Smell this" to somebody, whatever it is I have. And most people are like, you see their face light up, like, "What is this?" And their smiles, and like, who doesn't want to give that to somebody, you know?
Meanwhile, your husband's over there going, I don't know her. Don't
Yes.
worry, I have a 16-year-old. He doesn't want to know me either. So I kind of understand.
But it is like, like, he gets me. It's great. He's like, "Fine, you do whatever you do with whatever you're doing." But I love to share that with people, and it starts conversations, or there's a connection that's made. And if I can make someone's day a little brighter and make them smile by smelling something, I did my job,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, that's a nice segue. So you do classes. Do
Hmm.
you find doing and conducting these classes to be peaceful? You have this whole room of people or a
Oh.
one-on-one, and they come in with one, frenetic energy, and then they have to at least leave a little bit calmer than when they walked in the door.
Oh, yes. I mean, from the one-on-one consultations I do to classes, because inevitably we're smelling oils. And uh, I try, because I could start to talk and talk and talk, and I always have to remind myself, Amy, slow down. And one crucial thing about interacting with oils and classes, workshops, one on one, you have to smell it. You have to liberate that oil from the bottle. So we often use perfumer scent strips, but you can use a cotton
Okay.
pad. You could use a
Yes.
cotton pad, a tissue, a Q-tip. If it's special, one drop on your palm called direct palm inhalation to smell. But essential oils ideally are diluted when they go on your skin because they are
Yeah, a
so
little bit of
concentrated.
yeah, just a little bit of a
Yeah.
carrier oil. I
Yeah.
like I'm a Young Living girl, so I like the V6 or I like an avocado oil, something that's nice.
Yeah, it's anything, right, to dilute, but I call it liberate it from the bottle. In something that is crucial is to spend more than a second with that oil, more than 10 seconds. If it makes you smile, you're on the go, great. But to get that shift of perception of getting into your body, clearing your mind, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. And I
I was
see
gonna
it
say
hands down
definitely,
over the years.
definitely. Yep.
Yeah. I've kind of had my golden thing is 3 minutes. And I've had several people in workshops over the years, herbalists that were herbalists for years, like, "I know essential oils," and they sit with me and they're like, "I've never done that before. I didn't realize that, like, this could be this way." And it's like, that's not a huge secret, but it's really powerful when we can sit, we can do a body scan, whatever, but it'd be like, let's sit with the oil. And I coach people. I've written so many meditations and trying to work and guide people. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, no,
that's
we my RMT, she teaches an essential essential oils class, and we always spend at least a minute or two. So it's like I knew more than a few seconds.
Mhm.
You're not going to get much from that. You got to really understand how it's making you feel and
Yep.
like in what context. It's like, okay, that's not making me feel anything, making me feel nauseous. It's, what's it doing? And versus that oil I would just had before was great. I want that back. I've personally had those experiences where it's
Mhm.
like I can't think of ones off the top of my head that made me sick because I don't own them. Because
Yeah. 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 But yeah, it is on that note, it's important to pay attention to yourself, and if you find something repulsive, don't work with it unless you might be smelling a synthetic, you might be smelling something that's adulterated, who knows? But if something
right,
is just so repulsive, please don't force yourself unless you're really engaging it. If like some people hate valerian, and that's a challenging oil, valerian root. But if you can be neutral and sit with it and really get that information, it's interesting. But yeah, don't force yourself. It's just not.
it's not worth the repercussions. It's just
No,
not.
no, it's not. But
What are some of the tips, tricks, tools that I come to you, your best friend comes to you, your husband comes to you, is like, babe, I'm really stressed out right now. I just need to calm down. I need a few minutes of peace. What's in Amy's toolbox? What can she pull out right now and say, here, try this, or let's do this, or well, how about this, or did you do this today?
oh, so you just answered all the questions. So the ideal world is you'll have the conversation like, "Hey, how are you? What's going on? What stressed you out? Did you drink enough water today? What's going on? Are you hungry?" Um, but I think it's funny. I wouldn't always just reach for the essential oil. The question is like, how are you feeling? What's going on? Let's talk about it. And the oil is a tool. And if I have oils with me on my person, I might go and be like, hey, let's try this. But it is that conversation going back to what we were saying before about being the listener. Because sometimes people just want to talk, invent. And I've learned to be like, okay, do you want me just to listen? Because sometimes that's all people want is someone to talk to and to listen. But another thing would be if it's a client, because honestly, if I have family come to me, I'm like, I don't want to be the aromatherapist right now. I'm being really honest with you. I'm like, I don't want to wear that hat. I just want to be me, not being the professional. But I love offering my husband a massage at night, like a back massage. He doesn't realize how lucky he is, I think. Uh, uh, anyway, um, I love offering tea. I love, like, if you have a session with me, come over, we're gonna have tea and sit around and drink a tea together as we get to talk and get to know each other. And I think, the thing is, it's about sitting and listening and being there, and that's the biggest thing, and then the oils start to come into play and the plants come into play. But that's it. It's the being and listening and asking some questions, because often some of the best medicine is, God, I'm getting all sappy here, but it is love, and it is showing caring, and giving someone your time. I didn't really see the conversation going this way, but thanks. So you're like opening my mind to like, who am I really and what's going on? Uh, um, but I just want to share about the oils. Like I would, if I have them with me, if it's impromptu, I might be like, hey, let's smell something together. Let's just like chill out and smell something together and really tune in. And like we talked, you and I just like, let's spend 3 minutes smelling something and see what happens.
Right. Michael's reminding us gratitude brings peace.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it does. I just want to share, you probably do the same thing. I try every day. Living in New York City, especially during 2020, 2021, it got really interesting. It was very interesting all around the world. I remind myself when I'm feeling like this is interesting living here. I'm like, Amy, you live next to a post office. You live by a store you go just to get essential oils. You lived 3 blocks from the school you went to. You're a member of this. You just walk here. You have the world at your fingertips. Like, I just went to the cloisters today. Like, I have all these wonderful cultural gifts that I have, and I remind myself of them daily. I try. Like, there's a coffee shop I've been going to that's really quiet, and one of the people, that Jacob, that's there. I'm like, I love him. He always smiles. We say hi, we chat. I'm like, what a great way to start my day. So yes, gratitude and being mindful of that. I really try to every day do that, and every day I've been trying to be really good about this for probably 3 years. I wake up and I say good morning and I smile. Like, I'm grateful to this is good. That's a really great way to start my day.
That's beautiful.
Uh,
So, putting on the aromatherapy hat, I'm going to ask you that. What do you feel are some nice oils for people to explore to bring some calm, serenity, some peace? Whether they use them just in a diffuser or
mhm.
during meditation. What are some good ones to try? We've mentioned lavender, but that's a common one that everybody knows.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, I personally, I do like the calmer sense. Like I find juniper to be calming.
Mm.
But again, it's also a memory association. I find frankincense to be calming.
I was just going to say, yep, frankincense. It depends on the individual because you can explore, right? And you could have things are seasonal too. Like, I gravitate towards oils depending on the time of year. But um, there's so many scents. Like, I'm always surprised by some people will just say because of a memory association, they love eucalyptus. It calms them because it reminds them of Vicks Vapo Rub that their parents used on them. So with that in mind, right, like you said, the conifers, the spruces, the junipers from Colorado, my gosh, like that's a big connection. But Atlas cedar, the cedar woods, that's from Morocco, but here in North America, Juniperus virginiana. So on Long Island, they're all over the place. They're cedar trees, super stabilizing and grounding, really lovely. Rose geranium's kind of another greatest hits for a classic aromatherapy balancing oil, really balancing for everybody, but especially women during our cycles, but balancing for skin, emotions, moods. I'm a little reluctant to say this but I'm working with sandalwood. Sandalwood is regulated by the Indian government. There's Hawaiian sandalwood, there's Australian sandalwood. But if you can get an ethically sourced sandalwood,
Yep.
classic, classic panacea for bringing peace, calm, a sense of calm. Oh my gosh, just this weekend I was distilling German chamomile from my garden. I do distillations for the waters, the aromatic waters, the hydrosols. This is telling. This is so funny. I harvested all the flowers by hand, just the flowers. I wanted no green. And I distilled for about 4 hours. My dog, I have a Shiba Inu, or she has us. I mentioned her before.
And
She
that's kind of how I feel about my boyfriend's cat. She owns us.
Yeah, we're the caretakers. But Nikki was in our back four season room with me the whole time. She never does that. And I knew it was the chamomile vapor.
Mm,
So
calming her.
chamomile, you could reach to Roman chamomile, which is actually very sedative. It's like the poppy field. It's like you just want to lay down. But German chamomile is more of a balancing oil. You might not notice it like bam. It's subtle, just like Nikki. She was just like sleeping in this weird position for like 3 hours. So that's another oil. I mentioned the Atlas cedar. Patchouli, if you find a good quality patchouli,
I was going to say that's one of my aversions.
yeah. If you were to visit with me, I have like 6 patchoulis. They could be very light. I distill it for its hydrosol. It's if you find a good one, it's really embodying, helps you sink in. It's very sensual. On that note, vetiver. Vetiver is from
Love
a grass.
vetiver as well.
Yep. The root oil. If you want cooling and grounding and real centering, it happens most workshops when I introduce it. I could be in front of 30 people and I take out the vetiver and I just feel it calm me down, slow me down. Uh, I've met people, therapists that work with it for people with post-traumatic stress disorder, like former military. It's a all the oils have their signatures, but I just listed a bunch. I could go on, but I could pause to hear your feedback.
No, we just needed a few that would really help to bring people into a state of calm.
Yeah, there's so many that I mentioned. Yeah, here I just saw, I was like, I wouldn't turn to thyme. I looked at Clary Sage. She is like ecstasy. She could really make a room explode. Um, I've seen it. Rosemary is very stimulating. Yeah, I think we mentioned a few, right?
And so, as a teacher, what are some of your favorite things to teach about that help people remain calm and centered on a daily basis?
I of course have to. It's about talking about the oils in that relation, um, and just thinking about the what we were saying before. Let me just write this down. Oils. First, it's the oils. If you have these in your toolbox, some people might have other things they work with. It's about remembering that these are your anchors and know when. Remember to use them or to work with them. So if you have the roller ball, remember it's in your pocket. Remember it's in your bag. If you have the oils in your handbag, remember they're there. So if you feel you're starting to get agitated, you're going down the spiral, your mind's wandering, remember, because the oil's not going to do anything if it's tucked away. So remember to use them. And that's our responsibility. So to have, I have no tricks for that. It's just having the memory. So I like to give cues. So one thing I tell people, like a roller ball, an inhaler, if it's the bottle, if it's a blend in a bottle, have an anchor. Like when you're going into your car, pull out the oil, smell it. When you're walking into the office building, apply the oil. It's like having these during moments of transition often to incorporate the oil into your daily life in that way. That's a really important thing, and try to do it daily. And that's the thing, when you're working with a blender and oil, you might notice you're working with it for 2 to 3 weeks and then you don't need it anymore. And that's something that's really important. But I wanted to loop back to, it's about that being thankful for the things in our life and the gratitude. Like that's a way to keep you going. Otherwise, life can be so miserable if we're not thankful for what we have. But that's such a juxtaposition from going from like use your rollerball to being really mindful, because it goes back to that mindfulness of what is my intention for having the oil in my life, or the oils, and how do I intentionally use them.
Right. It is
And
intention. Absolutely.
yeah.
So I have one last question before we wrap up. What has been your favorite thing from transitioning from market research to aromatherapy? What has been your favorite and most memorable thing about that transition?
Oh gosh, these are such great questions. You're really getting me, because I've never really asked these. It was such a process. I think the most memorable thing was being a teacher. I never thought I would be a teacher. I never could. could see myself. I worked in market research, so would create presentations at times and present data to clients and stuff, and like important stuff, right? Executives. But I never thought I would be a teacher, and that was a big transition. But that was what really came out of this. And when I, unfortunately, the school I taught at folded, and I missed teaching so much. I really didn't. I had no idea that it's like so important to me. And when I have someone in a workshop or a class, and we touched upon this before, people transform right in front of your eyes
Yep.
with the oils. And it sounds cheesy, but it's true. Like, I am a conduit for this. All this information, I work with the oils, they're in my life, but I read about them. I have teachers. I am a conduit to help connect people with this medicine and to responsibly bring it into the world. And it's still like, I never thought that that would be it, me being a teacher. It's crazy. And I love
But
it. I absolutely love it.
that's awesome. And that's what absolutely needs to, your purpose.
Yeah.
It's
Who
to
knew?
help.
Yeah, to help through the plants. It is a gift, and it's awesome to be able to do this now. And I have to keep doing it and finding ways. So thank you for this conversation. You asked some really fun, good questions. Really, I'm like,
Wonderful.
oh,
So you do have a workshop coming up. Where can we find you? I know that we have the link to your website and Facebook and all of that. Do you have any workshops or anything coming up that would be highlighted on your website people should know about, visit?
thanks for asking. So, no, I am a private practitioner. I work from home. So, actually, how's this? Literally tomorrow, it's Spirituality Week in New York City, and I am part of Herbalists Without Borders. And I'm my friend Carolyn Jones. She's the head of all this. We're doing an event at Guy and Amaya, but this is tomorrow. It's a fully immersive experience with a bunch of practitioners. Um, to celebrate Spirituality Week and bring these modalities to our community. And this weekend on Governor's Island, there is the Lavender Farm. I will be doing participating a community lavender distillation. There will be happening. I will be lecturing there. But that's short notice. I don't have anything upcoming. I do one-on-one sessions. I'm open to remote sessions. I do educational one-on-one in person here in New York City. I just had a student last week. We did a 1 hour blending class. But one thing I'm really passionate about, that it's a pet project. It took me over a year to do it, and I'm giving it to the world now. I thought it would be a book, but she wants to be on my podcast. It's called Luna Aroma. So every month on the new moon, I share Luna Aroma. It's a guided aromatic encounter with an essential oil and seasonal themes. And it is a dear project of mine that I'm really excited to share.
Beautiful. We will have I'll put in links in the comments so that you can get all of that information. And I want to thank Amy for talking peace with us tonight. Thank you for being on, Amy.
Janice, this is so lovely, and your voice is so soothing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're like the third person in a month to tell me that. I've
Well,
heard it before, but it's in the last month. I had somebody call me up and they had to leave a message, and when I called them back, it's like, your voice is so soothing.
well,
Okay.
take it. It's a gift. Your presence is very soothing. So thank you. I appreciate you.
And I'm going to put Amy in the green room for a moment. And I want to thank everyone for joining me tonight on this special episode. We are having a special episode tomorrow as well. Go ahead and sign up for 9 p.m. Get reminded. I'm going to have Cody Blue Snyder and Tanya Dahl, the founders of Acid for Squares, on, and we're going to talk about what brings them peace and what projects they have coming up for the spiritual world. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.